Hello everyone and welcome back to Optimize FPL. I am going to be taking a look back at my predicted table. I posted it on my Instagram at the beginning of the season. I didn't make a video on it, but I thought that it'd be interesting to look and see how well I did. I'm going to be somewhat stealing the idea from Spencer FC, where he goes to the table, shows his predicted score, the club, then their actual position, and then the difference between the two, and we'll see how well I did in comparison to him in his recent season. So let's get into it. So starting off with my bottom three, they did not go quite to plan. I mean, I got Norwich exactly right, which was very nice. I was not surprised by that at all. Everyone, I think, saw Norwich going down. I actually put some of my own hard-earned cash on them going down, so it was quite a nice future bet for them to finally go down. But the other two teams didn't do as bad as we maybe thought they would. Southampton, at the beginning of the season, Southampton didn't have like a real striker. They had Che Adams, and they had Shane Long, and they had Broja. They weren't players that you necessarily believed in too much, so I was kind of surprised that they ended up staying up at all. But they did end up doing well. James Ward-Prowse really played very well this season, and honestly was probably one of the main reasons they stayed up. Brentford, I also got wrong in 13th place. They came up last season, so it's obvious to put a lot of the teams that come up to go right back down straight away. That happens quite often. I mean, this season we saw two of those teams come up and go straight back down, so it's not that surprising to see teams that go up go back down very quickly, but Brentford played very well this season. I really do think that bringing Eriksen in did save their season, because at the one point they kind of were on a trend of going down, not necessarily like in a risk of it, but it was something that was probably on the cards if they didn't bring somebody in to save their season. So overall, not a great start. I got Norwich exactly right. I only got one other team exactly right in my Premier League prediction table. So if you want to try guessing that out, try guessing now and leave in the comments down below and see if you think you know where I put everybody. But let's move on to the teams that were just above the relegation zone, and at least in my predicted table, not in real life. So up next, we have a couple of, not necessarily stinkers, but definitely not great. Watford in 17th place, thought they would just survive. And then Crystal Palace just above them, but they actually did a lot better than we were expecting. So to start with Watford, the reason I put them in 17th place and not into the relegation zone is because I thought that they would do better, because in the Championship they had actually a very decent defense going into the season. So I thought, they could potentially stay up, do a decent job, and maybe get some goals here and there with some signings like King and Dennis. I thought they could potentially keep them up. They had Islam Sarr as well, who was also a very good player. So I thought Watford have some decent talent. They could potentially stay up, but in the end, they weren't good enough. They weren't good enough. They deserved to go down, and it's not that surprising. So yeah, I was 2 spots off of there, 17th instead of 19th. Pretty close though. Crystal Palace, I put in 16th place. They ended up finishing 12th. Patrick Vieira did a fantastic job with this team. I gotta say, I really thought they were gonna do a lot worse this season than they ended up doing. Their defense played really well. Gueye, I can't pronounce the name properly, but Gueye did very good in that defense with Anderson beside him. Guaita also doing very well. The front three, sorry, but even the middle three were also very rotation heavy. So in FPL purposes, they were a very hard team to nail down, other than maybe Zaha. But every other player on the team was in and out. They have great rotation there. I think they're a decent mid-table team. I could see them doing very well next season, keeping probably around the same spot that they finished this season. Maybe potentially higher if they bring in some good quality players, but honestly, it could be anything at this point. So we got a lot of mid-table teams to go through. Let's go from 15th to 8th, and I'll go through each team one by one. Okay, so starting off with the Saudi boys, Newcastle United. I thought they'd finish 15th. They ended up finishing 11th, doing much better than I thought they would. Obviously, there was very little tells to show that they were going to be, acquired by Saudi Arabia, or whoever they were acquired by, the Saudi princes and princesses, or whoever they are. The billionaires, the trillionaires, however much money they have. Newcastle have all of it now, so didn't really expect them to do well with Steve Bruce at the helm, and I can't remember their manager's name, Mike something. Not manager's name, but owner's name. Anyways, that's here or there. Newcastle finishing 11th, very decent season. Joelinton did very well in that midfield. Honestly, going from a complete flop to somebody that is actually a very decent player now, it's quite surprising. Eddie Howe bringing out some of the best in some of his players. St. Maximin could have done a little bit better this season, I think. He's a little bit ball hungry, but overall, Newcastle did very, very well to finish 11th place, I gotta say. So congrats to them. Probably next season we'll probably see them in the top 10. I would be very surprised to see them anywhere lower than 8th next season, if I'm totally honest. Since they're going to have so much money to spend this summer, I'm sure they're going to get some nice, high-quality players in. So let's see what they can do next season. But yeah, finishing 11th this season is very, very good for them. Up next, in 14th, we had Sean Dyche's Burnley. I thought Sean Dyche would keep them in the Premier League, and I still do believe that if he was at the helm, he probably would have kept them in the Premier League. They were going through a bad run of fixtures, and obviously they ended up finishing 18th place, getting relegated, which is not fantastic for them. I'm happy to see them go, personally, as a Tottenham fan, because they always seem to turn up against Tottenham. They always seem to do really well against Tottenham, so it was never fun to play them. And seeing them go down definitely helps us for next season, I think, because a lot of the big teams have a hard time going to Burnley. They seem to be like the Stoke City of the new generation, where it's just big men, long balls, playing hard. So I don't know if they'll come back up next season. I think they probably will if they keep a lot of their good players, but it's going to be hard to tell. Burnley could be in some trouble here overall. Up next on our list, we got Brighton. Brighton doing very well, 9th place. That's a very, very good season from them. A lot of people put them a lot lower than I did. I put them in 13th place. I thought Graham Potter and all of Brighton were a very good and well-rounded team. Their expected points were very good last season, so I thought this season maybe they'll actually get some of those expected points, and they did. They did get a lot of those expected goals and assists and expected clean sheets and expected points. Finishing 9th is a fantastic achievement for them. Finishing the top 10 is unbelievable. So really, Graham Potter, fantastic job to him, did fantastic, and I think that he should be really proud of what he's been able to do at Brighton. And if he can get anywhere near a Europa League spot or even a Europa Conference League spot next season, that would be unbelievable for them. So congratulations to him. In 12th place, I put Wolves. I'm not sure why I put Wolves so low down. Maybe because last season they didn't do as amazing as we all expected. So I put them in 12th. They finished 10th, so I wasn't exactly that far off. But I feel like Wolves, now I look back, they are quite a decent squad, and they have a very good defense. Jose Sa really kept them in a lot of games this season and probably brought them a lot of points and probably brought them quite far up the Premier League table, if I'm totally honest. Next season, he's definitely one to keep an eye on for. He'll probably be like 5.5 million, though, unfortunately, in FPL terms. So it might be a little bit hard to get him in, so it might be unfortunate there. But some Wolves defender next season could be a bargain if we get like Aiden Nori at 4.5 again or something like that, and he actually plays every single game. But yeah, Wolves defense played absolutely fantastic. That's probably why they finished just inside the top 10. So congratulations to them. They did quite well, and obviously better than I expected them to do. 11th place in my Premier League table was Leeds. So Leeds did not finish 11th. They didn't finish anywhere near the top 10. They actually almost ended up getting relegated, finishing 17th place. Leeds, I thought they would do a lot better. Obviously, there was a huge asterisk on their season because of how many injuries they had. Patrick Bamford gone for multiple games, if not basically the entire season. Calvin Phillips also gone for a majority of their games. A majority of their center backs like Cooper and Stroik were gone for a lot of their games. Dallas was gone for a lot of their games. Ayling getting injured as well. Like, their whole team just seemed to be an injury-riddled team, which is not surprising considering the amount of sprints they did. I can't remember the graphic now, but there's a graphic basically where it shows every team's like sprints in a game, for the entire season. And Leeds had like 6,500, and the team closest to them, I think it was like Aston Villa or something, or maybe Burnley, I can't remember. It was like 5,000. So they had 1,500 more sprints over the entirety of this season. So think about how that's kind of caught up to them the last couple of seasons. They've been playing very hard, very aggressive, and it's exhausted them. And I'm not surprised that it's led to a lot of injuries, because that style of play is not sustainable without lots of rotation, which they didn't seem to have. So Leeds finishing 17th. Good for them to stay up. I really didn't think they were going to be able to stay up. I thought they were going down for sure. But they did well enough. They did just well enough to survive, and good for them because they needed it. I think Rafinha's probably gone next season, which is pretty unfortunate for them because I think he's a fantastic player. I think Calvin Phillips probably also is going to leave. So I wonder what Leeds will look like next season. I could see them even going down next season, depending on what they do. Jesse Marsch is not someone that I have too much confidence in, so we'll have to see what he can do with them next season. So I put Aston Villa in 10th place. They finished 14th. I think that this was actually quite a disappointing season from them to finish in 14th. Obviously, I had them a lot higher. That was before they got Coutinho. That was before they got Digne. That was before they were just looking like a decent team overall. Cash played very well, Tyrone Mings, but like the team cohesively just did not seem to flow as well as it did last season, and that clearly caught up to them because they finished 14th. I mean, like I said before, that's a very disappointing season from Aston Villa. I think they could do a lot better next season. Let's hope they can, because I think they have a lot of great FPL assets, if I'm totally honest. Aston Villa, I think, recently just got another center back, Diego Carlos from Sevilla, so they could be a team to really look for next season. So if they can solidify their defense, get their attack up and running, there's a lot of good, high-quality FPL assets there, so we want them to do well, and I hope they do well a lot better next season. Up next in our mid-table, Everton, I put 9th. You always expect Everton to be somewhere in mid-table. You know, you expect them anywhere between 7th and maybe 12th. And, because they're a big club. They've never gone down since the Premier League started. They have great players, like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, even Pickford as the goalkeeper, number one goalkeeper for England. You think that Everton would do a lot better than they ended up doing this season. And I think it is quite embarrassing of a season for them. I mean, obviously, congratulations for them to stay up into the Premier League. I mean, that is a huge accomplishment just to survive the Premier League. But a club like Everton, a size of their nature and how good they are, or how good they should be, 16th place is an absolute disaster season. And clearly, I did not do very well. That's the worst prediction I had this season, with -7 in the difference table. Very far off where they should be. I wonder what they'll do next season, whether Frank Lampard will bring in some more high-quality players to try to push them up the table next season, whether they're just going to try to survive into mid-table and just kind of live there for the next 5 years while they try to maybe rebuild something with some youth players. There's a lot to do with Everton. Their club is just very interesting. It looks like a calamity to me, but they survived, so I guess that's good for them. But overall, very disappointing season from them, and they should be probably embarrassed by it. So in my 8th place, I put West Ham. The season before that, they finished 6th, actually, so I was actually kind of underestimating them, and I guess I was kind of right. West Ham ended up finishing 7th in real life, which is pretty decent, only one position off, which I wasn't too hard done by, but they easily could have finished 7th if they'd just beaten Brighton in the last game of the season. They beat Brighton in the last game of the season, they overtake Manchester United, and they finish 7th. Or they finished 6th, sorry. So, it was close. It was close. They could have gotten Europa League. They did very well in the Europa League this year. West Ham, overall, they did fantastic, I think, honestly. Antonio starting the season off really well, same as Benrahma. They kind of tailored off towards the end, but Bowen has been absolutely amazing for them this season. Player of the Year candidate. I think he was fantastic, and honestly, somebody we should keep an eye on for the seasons to come, because he was fantastic this season. I think that he can go up leaps and bounds in the upcoming years. Okay, moving on into the Europa Conference League and Europa League spots. We had Arsenal, Spurs, and Leicester. So they did a lot. All three of them had very interesting seasons. We'll start with Arsenal first. Lots of consistency. Had no European ties to play because they finished 8th last year. So they had lots of time to focus on the Premier League. Lots of time to focus on it because they also lost in very early rounds of both the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. So they had lots of time to focus on the Premier League. Maybe that's something I should have kept in mind, at least for the European part, where they had no European fixtures to play. Probably could have boosted up the table a little bit. Probably would have put them above Spurs if I thought about it a little bit more at the beginning of the season, just because they had nothing to worry about other than the Premier League, really. So finishing 5th is a fantastic season for them. I mean, obviously, I loved the fact that they ended up losing 4th place to Tottenham because, big Tottenham lad right here at heart. So it's great to see them in 5th. They had lots of great FPL assets this year. I do not think that we're going to get anywhere near the amount of FPL assets from a top 4, top 5 team next season. So we got quite lucky there. And yeah, overall, Arsenal, very interesting season. I'm happy they finished 5th. Pretty close to what I predicted them to. Enjoy the Europa League. Moving on to the mighty Tottenham. Finishing 4th place. I predicted them 6th. I think that's a very fair prediction at the beginning of the season. They had Nuno Espirito Santos at the helm. Kane didn't want to be there. Our defense was just not quite there overall, in my opinion. So putting them in 6th, I think, was a very fair place to put them. And it was pretty close. They came 4th. Which I'm very happy by, because I did actually end up betting on. There were 2 things I bet on coming up. It was Spurs to finish in the top 6, which they did, which was very nice. We'll also talk about Leicester. I bet on them to finish top 10, which they also did. But going back to Spurs, getting Conte in, getting in Kulusevski, getting in Bentancur, these are things that I was definitely not thinking about at the beginning of the season. So the fact that they got these players in, I think, is the real reason why we finished in the top 4. Conte next season with his war chest, whoever he brings in the summer, I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping that some of the Spurs players don't go up too much in price, like Kulusevski. Any defenders, I think next season, defenders for Tottenham would be a great purchase. I'm not sure about the wingbacks because I think there would be a lot of rotation with the wingbacks, but a center back like Dyer, Romero, if they're priced appropriately, could be great asset. Anyways, let's move on to Leicester. Doing decently, honestly. Considering that I thought that they were going to finish 5th, they ended up finishing 8th. For a lot of the season, I thought they were going to finish below 10th, which is the bet that I made. That was the one I put a lot of money on. I put like almost $300 on it, that they were going to finish in the top 10. So the fact they finished 8th was a blessing, but I think that 8th is very flattering to their season. They were not good for a majority of the season, and I think Brendan Rodgers is extremely lucky to still have his job. I think that the reason he still has his job is because he did so well in the European games that he was able to keep his job that way. But I think that Leicester did very, very poorly this season. I think James Maddison is the main reason they did anywhere near as well as they've done in the past. And I think that he should be counting his lucky stars that he's still in a job, Brendan Rodgers. Because I think Leicester have the quality, and they have, and they should have the players to be able to get a lot higher and probably into one of the European spots. So the fact they have no European competitions next season, I think they'll do a lot better because their squad was running quite thin. And let's see what they can bring in the summer. But yeah, overall, I think Leicester should be very, very, very happy with their actual finish. But throughout the season, I think they should be quite embarrassed with how they did. So I'm just going to plop the top 4 down that I had. I had Manchester United, I had Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City. Man City and Norwich were the only 2 teams I got exactly spot on. First and last. I think that's pretty hilarious to look at, if I'm totally honest. Just the fact that basically everything in between the top and the bottom I got slightly wrong, close, some not close, and the top and the bottom were the only 2 positions I got exactly perfectly, which I think is, like I said, I think it's pretty hilarious. But anyways, let's go from the bottom to the top. Manchester United, I put them in 4th. They end up finishing 6th. They should be very, very happy with 6th because they played absolutely terribly this season. Rashford, don't know what happened to him. Sancho played terribly after coming in. Varane barely played, and when he didn't look that amazing. Harry Maguire, I don't know what he was doing. He was absolutely terrible. They finished on the lowest points tally a Manchester United team has ever finished in the Premier League. It was an absolute disaster. And I mean, the fact that it's an absolute disaster and they finished 6th just shows the pedigree of how good Manchester United are. Ronaldo and De Gea are really the only 2 players that should be able to keep their head held high after that season. And we'll have to see what they do next season. Will they keep Ronaldo? Will Ten Hag say, that's it, no more Ronaldo, he's not done enough for the team, even though he scored basically all their goals, and they haven't won with him not there. They played 10 games with him not there. They didn't win a single one. So I think that says a lot about how good Ronaldo still is at 37 years old. He is the reason that Manchester United even finished 6th. I think they could have done a lot worse, if I'm totally honest. They could have easily finished 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th. They played very averagely, and I think that they could do quite poorly next season unless they bring in some high-quality players, which I think they will because they're Manchester United. They got lots of money, and they got the pedigree, so we'll have to see what they can do. So I put Liverpool in 3rd. The reason for that is because they barely squeaked in the top 4 last season. I kind of forgot about how poor Liverpool were last season. Not poor, but just like barely finishing in the top 4. So the fact they finished 2nd this season, only 1 point off the Premier League title, was very, very harsh for them. I mean, they've played every single game possible they could. They played every single Champions League game. They played every single Carabao Cup game. They played every single FA Cup game, and they played every single Premier League game. Because they got to the final of all 3 of the major competitions they're in, and obviously you play every single game in the Premier League. Everybody does that, so they've been absolutely amazing consistency. We'll have to see what they do next season. I'm actually really curious what they do with Luis Diaz and Jota and Mane. Are they gonna, like, Mane seems like he might be going after the Champions League final. Will Luis Diaz become a more obvious name on the team sheet every single week? Will he be more consistently playing every single week? Will Jota be playing more often every single week? It seemed like at the beginning of the season he was playing quite often, but now towards the end of the season he wasn't playing as often, so it kind of made it hard to pick him as an FPL asset. Salah, where is he going to be staying? I think he probably will from what it sounds like. He just finished with top goal scorer, top assister. He'll be in every single Premier League squad, I'm sure, for FPL. And then we talk about the defense, like what's going to happen with Trent and Robertson. Are they going to be 9 million, 9.5 million? How expensive are they going to make these players? Because they've just been so amazing. This Liverpool team has been so good, it's so consistent. They've been like no rotation as well, which is just ridiculous. So I'm really curious to see what happens with Liverpool next season. So I'm looking forward to them. I predicted Chelsea to get second. They ended up finishing third. It was actually not even really close for them to finish in the top two. They finished in third almost like as a consolation towards the end. They were playing for nothing for like the last 5 games. They weren't anywhere near the top. They weren't anywhere near fourth or fifth, so they were just cruising. I think at the beginning of the season, if they had kept Chilwell and Reece James fit, they could have actually done a big push for the top spot. And I think next season they will do a lot better. There's rumors going around that potentially Neymar could be going to Chelsea, which would be absolutely ridiculous if that happens. I personally hope it doesn't happen because I don't want Chelsea to be this amazing team. I much prefer them to be in administration and not be able to play. But obviously that's not going to happen. They already have somebody purchasing their squad, so it is what it is. Chelsea, overall, mediocre season. I think they could have pushed a lot harder. They could have finished on a better points tally. I think they finished on like 73 points. I think anywhere in the 80s was probably more realistic for them and what they probably should have been aiming for, but they got Champions League. Next season, we'll see what they can do. And last but not least, Manchester City in number 1. One of my 2 predicted correct answers. What do you say about them? They are ridiculous. They are amazing, and their team is just only getting better as time goes on. Pep Guardiola, probably one of the greatest Premier League managers ever. I'd say he's probably top 3 with Jose Mourinho and Sir Alex Ferguson, probably in that order. Pep, Jose, Alex Ferguson. He's just been absolutely amazing. 4 Premier Leagues out of 5 years. How long can he do it? How long is he going to stay? You know, like, is he going to stay for the next 10 years and try to get to where Alex Ferguson finished? Absolutely cement himself as a Manchester City legend? Like, it would be ridiculous if he does. And the players he's got coming in already. He's got Haaland coming in after not having a registered striker for the entire season, and they scored 99 goals. They scored 99 goals without a real striker. The only striker they had was Gabriel Jesus, and they put him out on the wing. So, like, they're going to have a real striker now next season, and they're going to have all these quality players around him. He is going to score so many goals. I guarantee it. If he can stay fit, because I know he's had a tough injury record at Dortmund, if he can stay fit, he is going to score at least 25 goals in the Premier League. You have my word. If he plays every single game, he'll score 25 goals. So I'm looking forward to that, see how he does. And yeah, I think Man City probably can go on to win the season again next season. So pretty ridiculous. Overall, I thought my Premier League table was pretty decent. 58 points. It's not too bad. I don't know if anybody has watched Spencer FC's most recent video. His top 2 finishes out of the top, he's done it for 5 years now, 5 or 6 years, and his top finishes were 44 and 56. So 58 is a very, very good score, I think, in my opinion. If we quickly look to his table right now, which I'm sure he'll do a video on eventually, but I'm just going to use it as reference for my rank at 58. So this is Spencer FC's table. That was what he predicted, and he got the exact same amount of points as me. He got 3 more positions right. His top 5, I'd say, were a lot better than mine, but he got exactly the same amount of points as me, which I think is very impressive, because I think I regard Spencer's opinion quite highly. So I'd say overall a very good season for me, 58 points. Let's see if I can do it next season. I will be bringing out another prediction video at the beginning of next season, probably at the beginning of August, I'd say, just before the season starts, because I believe it starts August 6th, so I'll try to get it in just before that, try to get as much information as possible about transfers and all that stuff. And yeah, overall, quite a decent score. So I will be bringing out more videos throughout the summer. I'm going to be doing a season review. I haven't done that yet. And also some transfer updates, some price predictions, getting some drafts in for the new season, looking back at the old season and see what I can take out of it and try to learn from for next season. So overall, I'm excited for next season, and I'm happy with the season we just had. Thanks everybody for all the support. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to the next season. Cheers everybody. Talk soon.